And the only way you can have plenty of margin is if you have a high margin deal. And only way you can have a high margin deal is to distinctly be more valuable than your competition.
Hey, what's up everyone? I am very excited to be here with my good friend Ryan Groth of Sales Transformation Group. What's going on, Ryan?
What's up, Joe? Glad to be here, man. Good to hang with you.
Yeah, awesome to have you here. We chatted for about 30 or 40 minutes before we hit record, and finally figured why not hit the record button and share some of those insights with our audience today. So I just want to give you a personal kind of background on Ryan. I don't want to make him work too hard on this, but also we've got a relationship that goes back about a year, and we've done some things together, and we've got some we've got some mutual clients. And Ryan is one of those leaders in the roofing and the contracting industry that you really want to latch onto, not only from a business perspective, but Ryan's got a beautiful family. He's got 4 kids. They live out in Hawaii. I'll let Ryan talk about that in a little bit. He and his team help companies in the roofing and contracting industry build high performance sales teams and high performance companies so they can take control over the growth of their company and have those sales systems in place to pretty much do whatever they want. And the mutual clients that we do have that I've talked to have nothing but great things to say about Ryan's training and the mastermind groups, and not only related to sales, but things like mindset and how to make decisions and how to approach business and how to think holistically about your business and your life.
By the way, great intro. I'm glad you're recording it. I'm going to have to steal that.
We met back in Phoenix earlier this year. We did like a kind of impromptu podcast video that was like in this outdoor like mall at 9:00 at night. But we were both at conferences, so we're just trying to squeeze it in. And we just made a really good connection. One of the things that I haven't really talked about, I guess, on video, and Ryan and I were just talking about it before we hit record. Ryan comes up to me the next day. He's like, "Hey, I love what you're doing. I love your videos and everything like that. I love your content." He's like, "Excuse me if this sounds like it's a little bit, personal, but I think you could go. I think there's a few more layers there. Like, I think you could go a little bit deeper, and for some reason you're holding back." So he challenged me to do some self-reflection and do some digging and to figure out like what those deeper levels are that I was kind of holding back. So throughout this year, and literally at least once a week, I think of Ryan, I think of that conversation. It's very sharp, it's very vivid, right, in my brain. And I'm thinking about like every video I'm doing, every piece of content I'm putting out, how can I go deeper than surface level with this? And people do business with people, and I've got a lot that I want to share, and some life experiences and business experiences, as does Ryan. So I've been trying to take Ryan up on that challenge, get a little bit deeper with my content. So that's the type of impact that he has on people. We hardly knew each other at that point, but he comes out of left field with that kind of that challenge for me. And I just want to let you know, Ryan, I really appreciate that. It's something that has been an area of growth for me this year. So thank you very much.
Thanks for sharing. I'm glad you found value. Didn't write me off as a total wacko.
Yeah. Hopefully I can provide some value, or I have provided some value to you as well, buddy.
You're inspiring, dude. You're the most consistent guy, and your excellence is off the chart. So I'm inspired by what you're doing, man. So thank you.
Awesome stuff. Thanks, man. So that was quite a beefy intro. Is there anything that I left out there? I think one of the things that I'd like to hear more about is your move to Hawaii and what prompted that and how that's been going over the past few months.
Yeah, my wife wanted to move to Hawaii before she met me. And then when we met, I totally just disrupted her plans of being a nurse and living in Hawaii. So when we got married, I was coaching baseball and she was teaching dance, and we were both hard workers and we know we'd figure something out. So thus fast forwarding to at the point of where we are today, was starting this company and having have enough success, the vehicle of delivering the values online. COVID hits. But prior to that, she wanted to come to Hawaii. I'm just like, you're nuts. I got to be all over the country speaking at events. I got to get the Ryan show on and strong for our family and all this stuff. So as a lot of entrepreneurs do, they put themselves and their business before everything. And I found myself doing that and creating enough tension that it was starting to not look so good. So when she shared, I want to move to Hawaii, and I let that sink in, I tried to get out of it in every way possible, because as much as I like Hawaii, I like to work. I mean, I like to make money. I like to grow. I like to add value. And hanging on the beach and surfing makes me feel like I'm not doing something. So that actually exposed a big hole in my life, which I didn't really know how to rest and have peace. I always felt like I had to work. So I've actually grown a tremendous amount this year in learning how to relax and trust, the man upstairs, trust my team, trust the process, trust those speaking in my life. And there was a big risk involved for me. I was really afraid of moving from Florida and the comfort of the incubator that I was able to grow in with in my friends and family and my mentors and my opportunities. So all that to say, we saw that COVID was creating a lot of uncertainty, and we had to quarantine anyway. Why not quarantine in Hawaii versus the concrete jungle of Broward County and South Florida, which is literally one compared to being here. It's been very refreshing. So we had our fourth child here. We also bought a house in the same week. We closed on the house and had our baby. Our business has tripled. I've grown my team, and it's been really a blessing for us to come over here, and our marriage is stronger. So at the end of the day, I had to deep down understand, what does success look like? And I'm like, man, if I could keep the revenue the same, but have double the time to be with my family, and my wife is super happy and her dreams are being realized, and I'm being very successful, not just with the growth of my business only. Because if I'm growing my business, but my family is struggling, or my wife feels disconnected, then am I really successful? I was legitimately asking that question. And I think many entrepreneurs have to face that. And I was facing it. It was the day of crossroads, the day of reckoning. And so when we aligned, it's been so good, Joe. Let me tell you, bro, anybody who has a spouse with a dream on their heart that you just can't shake, and you don't just scratch the itch for the vacation, but there's more, and you can do it, then do it, because we're in a way better spot. And we were decently healthy, productive members of society prior, but there's always more, right? There's always a new level for us and in everything: business, personal, physical, emotional, relational, blah, 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 blah. So it's been great. I do miss the face-to-face, but I'm glad to be going to RoofCon and speaking here. Some people don't mind coming to us when we do our live events again. They won't hate coming to Maui for a couple of days and spend a few extra days to do some mastermind work. So I'm looking forward to it. Very grateful. Feel set up to serve this industry for a long time. And a lot of stuff's happened.
Wow, that sounds awesome. Yeah, I for one would not mind expensing a business trip out to Hawaii from New Jersey. So anytime you want to do some in-person videos and some collabs, then I'm down for sure. I love surfing, although I might get my butt kicked in the Hawaiian waves.
Some gentle, learnable waves. I'm actually finally learning. So I didn't know how to surf in Florida. You're going to come, it'll be a mastermind event, and you'll bring a client of yours that isn't an STG client. We'll make it a big fun time. Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. Perfect. I love hearing that. I love hearing that you approach your business, your life holistically, and it's not just about making more money or getting more clients or working more hours, but it's all those things that have to be, working in concert to produce a great life that enables you to serve those people that you want to serve, that, like you alluded to, at the end.
Let's think about this for a second. If you're building your business and neglecting your spouse, what happens after a while? You're pressing the emergency button, aren't you? And you're spending a whole week to recover that, and your business is suffering. And now because you're doing damage control, I mean, dude, it's way gnarlier. Now I'm here. She feels loved and supported. We have a permanent residence here where she wanted to be. So whenever I work, I'm working in an environment that's way more in my favor versus working and I'm really in the doghouse in her mind or my kid's mind. And I think I'm doing great. That's a that's just not cool. Like, how is that successful? I don't care how much money you have in the bank. Like, somebody's going to be drinking it from the bottle or doing something to try to medicate or, something, the pain that's going on. Like, it's just not like going to last. Or divorce is happening because people are cheating on each other because they're not accepted for who I am. Dude, that's all baloney. So I could talk for hours on that stuff, but I could tell you, like, I'm more efficient, more productive, more clear-minded, more positive, more focused than ever before because I don't have my wife, like, me not supporting her in the back of my mind and feeling guilty about it. Now I'm doing my part. She supports me. It's been a game changer. So if anybody's got any spouses with, it doesn't even require, I mean, my wife's not asking for Gucci and a Land Rover or a G-Wagon. She's not asking for that. She just wanted to live in a better place. And for that, I'm grateful because she's got eyes to see things I never could see because, I was my blinders are up. I'm focused, right? So I can do that. Like you're focused, but your spouse sees things that you don't see, or your business partner, or your kids. I mean, whoever it may be that you care about. So we're really grateful for that. Sorry for that tangent. Just felt to share.
No, dude, don't be sorry about that. It sounds like you guys really like make one another better, and that's a sign of a great relationship. It's so important, and I can relate to it on a health perspective. Like, I work out every day. I run marathons. I do CrossFit, and I love it. And I've gone through phases in my business where I'm like, all right, got this big push. We got this big event. I'll be traveling, or this big, thing we have to get done. And I'm just going to not work out for a week. Like, I don't care. I'm just going to survive on coffee and lack of sleep. And I can do it. Right. And I've gone through those phases. I think we all have. I'm sure, most people listening to this or watching this have gone through those phases. And looking back on it, maybe it's just the maturity of, growing older and maturity in business. You realize, like, you're not productive at all. I mean, when you're sleep deprived, when you're all jacked up on caffeine, you're like, we think we're just like doing our business a favor by, putting in like a 60 or 80 hour week or 100-hour week or whatever it is, but really not. And it's so true. Like, I learned to create leverage by creating systems, by, growing a bigger team, to create leverage beyond just my hustle. And that's something I think you probably see a lot. I see a lot in the roofing and contracting industry where it's like, all right, we start our businesses, we hustle and grind, we get to this certain level. And then if we want to grow beyond that in business and in life, we can't just keep doing more of the same thing. Like, we can't work more hours. So we've got to create that leverage. We've got to be intentional about that. And that's the word that came to me when you were talking about your family life and everything like that. Is it sounds like you and your wife are very intentional about what you want and how to support one another and what success really means, right?
Yeah, we're a team. We have a hands in. Team Groth on 3, ready, 1, 2, 3. It's corny, dude, but the kids love it. I mean, we're a team, and each of our 4 kids brings something unique to the team. So yeah, it's good. Family is a team. Look at The Incredibles, right? Look at like the Cheaper by the Dozen movie. They all work as a team, and it's very cool. It's what we're here for, man. The world would be solved. The world's problems would be solved if people all embraced family and kept families together and kids weren't fatherless and come on, you name it. So we're all about it. There's a war on family. So yeah, we've been diligent, doing our best. And that's a big part of what people feel on the backside of my training is kind of tapping into that stuff. And then it all just works together in tandem for better clients, more confidence, more health, better health. It's all good, but sales is my jam because it's uncomfortable. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of presence of mind. It takes active listening. It takes humility. It takes a lot of recovering from rejection. I mean, I love sales. It's an environment and entrepreneurship in general, but for the sake of what I'm doing is helping sales organizations get created. It's a great environment for growth.
Yeah, I love that. Great environment for growth. You've got to have all the ingredients. You got to have sun. You got to have water. You got to have good soil and all those factors that go into planting good seeds that you're going to be able to harvest consistently. So speaking of the business, let's kind of transition a little bit from family. And by the way, Ryan, like I'm not inside your training and in your programs, of course, but I see it on your Instagram and your social media that you have your business and family and you're at the beach on the weekends, and like you can see that, right? And that transparency is what is great about social media. There's a lot of perhaps negative things you can say about social media, but that's to me one of the positive things. You're in Hawaii, I'm here in New Jersey, but I feel this connection, even though we haven't seen each other in 6 months, and or however many thousand miles away. So that's the beauty of social. But getting into the business end, you've talked about how you guys have kind of adapted over the course of 2020, and I think it's been a growth year, business-wise and personally for a lot of people, including myself, and just kind of realizing what's important, realizing what we want, realizing what we need and what we don't need, or things that we might have thought we wanted but are not really that important. And I think it really gets a crazy year of a lot of uncertainty really gets us to focus on what's important. So how has your business adapted over 2020? If you want to get into some of your clients' businesses, how they've adapted as well. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so our business, we went from originally doing one-on-one consulting to one-on-one in person to one-on-one live to first version of the course to with group coaching and some mastermind groups. And then getting business would require me to network and build relationships, which I love. And it's a big part of what I was doing. But COVID put the kibosh on that. But it was also very challenging on our family. And then it was also very difficult to scale. It was like going to just duplicate me in person to speak all over the world. Like, no, that's just, that's crazy. So as I've invested into my own model, I noticed more and more info product people being incredibly lucratively successful with just committing all in. And a lot of them are younger than me. I mean, we're not the young guys anymore. We're like starting to become that, we're crossing over, late 30s is no longer young in the consulting space. You got 20-year-olds like, I can change your roofing business. You see them all over the roofing groups. But the bottom line is there's a new generation of consultants. So I had to adapt, and I did. So we moved to running ads. So you probably see my ads on Facebook if you're listening to this. I'm wearing a tank top and I'm like, my hair's in a ponytail. I'm talking about selling value, and I'm not looking very professional, but if you listen to what I'm saying, it's actually pretty good. And then, and then I have a bunch of other pictures. You probably see my ads, but dude, that's all new for me. So running ads and then doing more podcasts, more webinars, which is already something I was doing, but not having to do it live in Vegas this time, right? It's great. And there's like 20 people and then 2 people buy from you and you're like, oh, is that worth it? Well, when you look at now, and then I've also added a remote sales team. So I made version 2 of my program so strong, and it's in its 3rd iteration for animations in there. So it's just really clean and professional, something you're proud to share and show your team, like this is a professional program. So that's great. It's built for all trades and all business models. I designed it on purpose because I love Jeeps. I want to be the Jeep Wrangler of sales training for the construction industry. And I know some people say, well, I can't drive a Jeep for my work truck. You know what I'm saying? Jeeps are awesome. You put some tires on it, you feel great. It holds its value. Everybody loves a Jeep. So that's really like creating a better product by not traveling allowed me the time to do that. Ads to drive more awareness and more leads. And then there's also hiring a remote sales team to prospect and to create more opportunities through hunting and really eating my own dog food or drinking my own champagne. You can call it building a sales organization for us. And so since then, we've essentially tripled regularly. Our last quarter was amazing. And yeah, we did basically what we did the first 6 months of the year in a quarter. So that, and it's trending upward. So it's been cool. It's taught me some new things to learn and teach my contractors. For my contractors, many of them are selling remotely. Many of them are moving to inside sales teams as well. So I'm teaching them how to build inside sales teams at prospect, working on video as well on the sales process, which I know you do a great job of. So we just give them some support on how to leverage client testimonials and leverage a short video sales letter that gets someone to understand their perceived value before, during, after the sales appointment. And then combine that with a consultative sales approach with the mindset that we teach. I mean, there's nothing holding them back from being the best, specifically going more and more to commercial. However, I found that because I've been doing ads on Facebook, I'm kind of no longer just a commercial roofing sales guy, like the sales training. We've seen a lot of commercial departments who use my training grow, and then they've added it to their sales side on the residential because they want to sell more retail versus storm chase. So it's actually supported more of that predictable model, which I love that you market and the brand. It's very much in alignment. So anybody who's using your stuff should use mine and vice versa, because philosophically we're aligned. We just talk about two different problems that we solve, but it's in unison. And so that being said, I'm finding a lot more residential contractors in other trades, but especially ones who want to get into commercial, work with me, and then they get crazy amounts of value on how the retail sales approach, because you actually have to sell the $25,000 in cash versus a deductible, right, and get it paid. You actually have to create value and get them to work with you over somebody else. You actually have to have a community presence and a brand. I mean, you actually have to do this stuff, the hard, like, not just saying it's hard, but I'd rather work on that stuff and keep my family in order and have employees that stay a long time than have turnover with a bunch of sales guys that are like gypsies. Okay. I love them, but they're gypsies, and you're a gypsy, and your family probably hates you for being gone all the time. They love the nice car, but good grief, come on. Like we all know what we're talking about. The same problem that I was struggling with when I was speaking all over the place. It was like I was a storm chasing sales or owner myself, but for as a coach, same thing. So I had to figure out my adjustment to live what I was preaching my contractors to do. So I'm grateful for that. So much more leveraging of technology, tightening up the sales process using video, tightening up with qualification through questionnaires, automation and, the CRM, great reporting, analytics, coaching, Zoom calls. We do two group coaching calls a week with salespeople and their teams and groups with other clients. And we do breakout groups. It's a lot of fun. We sharpen the saw like a drill in sports. We focus on one area and we just, create that peer environment of growth. And then we do a monthly sales leader call, which we're consulting sales leaders and owners across the country with their problems and growing the sales organization, just keeping them connected, man. So it's allowed me to trust in the vehicle of technology more than ever. And so therefore my clients are adopting it, and then they're embracing and implementing technology as well. Some of them are doing things more cutting edge than I am, and I'm inspired. So it's pretty fun.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah, on that last point, I agree. We have clients come into our program and like, oh yeah, we got this going on, we got this going on. I'm like, man, that's awesome. We got to start doing that, and then teaching other contractors how to do that as well. That's so good to hear. That's so good to hear. I can totally relate to that. Q1 of this year was like insane as far as travel on the road every week, and I try to be intentional about it. And I think looking back on it, once COVID and lockdown hit, I looked back at Q1. I was like, did I really need to get on the road that much and do all that? We're looking at kind of the ROI of different events, and then, just that you're away, and as a small organization, you're not working on some of those projects like improving your product or improving your technology, your ads and funnels and everything like that. Those things are sort of getting neglected when you're on the road so much. So, I think, and then of course the last 6 months really haven't traveled at all. So I think there might be a balance in between somewhere where it's, being strategic about which events you go to and maybe speak at. And then others, you're just kind of hanging back and realizing that you can provide more value and serve your market more effectively, and of course serve your family while you're home. So as you were talking about creating value, like helping your contractors create value and sell based on that value, I think I guess it was this week one of your contractors posted in your group, hey, we actually were 20% over the next highest bid, but the property owner went with us anyway because they appreciated the value in our approach and sharing all the information about the project and everything like that. Congrats on that. I think that's, as a service-based business, whether it's yours or mine or a contracting business, we are selling the invisible. Like one of my favorite marketing books ever is called Selling the Invisible. And it's about where people can't touch or feel or see the service that we provide until we actually do it. So we've got to give people evidence of that and build that trust and build that confidence in our company. So congrats on that. That was awesome to see, man.
Yeah, it was good. I cherish those, and I always ask for permission. Can I share this? And I say sure. But he said STG for the win in his post. It was a $275,000 project that he was $20,000 higher than the next guy. So it was really cool to hear, because I'm not saying sell less volume, okay? I'm not saying sell less volume. I'm saying sell more volume without lowering, in fact, keeping a high margin, because you're selling your value. I mean, dude, if you sell your value and you're like, instead of living at 20% gross, you're living at 40, I mean, that's 2 projects for the price of 1 and their bottom line. And I think that what that does is it really impacts someone's bottom line, gives them freedom for training, more employees and base salaries if necessary, payroll taxes and W-2s. I mean, all that stuff comes when you have more margin. And the only way you can have plenty of margin is if you have a high margin deal. And only way you can have a high margin deal is to distinctly be more valuable than your competition. And 65% of that happens in the sales process. And the sales process is 85% mental. So there's so much that goes into ensuring that front end experience displays the value. And so that's why our program goes down to the baseline variables that make that occur. But when it starts to pan itself out, you get consultative sellers that sell value, meet with the actual decision makers, truly confident problem solvers, differentiators, relational, that are prospecting, taking massive action regularly, and able to articulate the value, and having an organization that supports good people to do that well. And then you have that problem, you can fix your backlog problem by hiring more crews, and because things are more predictable. So sales unlocks everything. Selling value unlocks everything to an entirely new level, allows you to take some chances to make mistakes, things like that. So, and invest and have some extendable marketing, buy your program and implement it, buy mine, buy whoever, you have more money to work with because you can invest. So yeah, it's really cool to see the mindset of a salesperson knowing their value individually as a human, and then knowing their value and how to articulate that value after finding out the experiences that their prospect is having that was frustrating. Like, we call it the horror story. We do a drill and we say, let's get the horror story. Say, grab your popcorn. And so what we do is we teach them how to ask questions. And when they say, tell me more, right? We want to know how that other roofer, how the experience, like what led them here, how them trying to do that themselves led them here. We want to polarize that enemy and not say, oh, that sounded terrible, but just acknowledge it. So I understand this is your problem. So why would you do it differently this time? Or where we want to go differently? Or what was your desired situation look like? When they express that, there's like a clear cost emotionally and financially to them trying to do that again. And it's worth doing a little bit of more. They're expecting to pay more for it. So when you're higher and they want to know what your price is and what you think, they're prepared. It's exciting. So we want to do a lot of things on the front end to make that happen. But if the salesperson can have those conversations well, which is what we train and coach to, it changes the game.
Love it. Yeah, we talk about a lot of the same things, and we're on the marketing end, you're on the sales end. So I would characterize it as we help with demand generation, like getting prospects for our clients to raise their hand and say, yes, I'm interested in talking with you. And on the sales end, you guys would take over at that point when the hand is raised and developing that process. And we talk about the same things, like providing value in your marketing, whether it's your website, your social media videos, your campaigns, the things that you're doing to follow up with prospects once they contact you. Like, all those little touch points cannot be overvalued. Like, those are so important, and I think too many companies miss them. They're not really complicated. It's just a matter of like understanding where you can add value in all those different touch points and optimizing for those areas to stand out. Yeah, and another thing you mentioned there, which I love, is profit margin, right? You and I were talking about this before we hit record. You were talking about your Facebook ads, and we didn't really talk about mine too much, but we're talking about, what's it cost to get a prospect? What's our cost per client acquisition? And does that make sense? And those, we've got to know those numbers as business owners. So I assume that's something that you coach on, that you train on, as far as like knowing your numbers, your cost per lead, your cost per appointment, your cost per project.
I'm not teaching them to run paid ads like you are, at least not right now, which I may try to get dangerous and figure that out later. but I'm primarily focused on sales. So more is, hey, what's our closing rate? Like, what's our sales cycle? What's our targets? What's our gross profit margins? What's our number of deals in the pipeline? So when they know those numbers, they're like, oh, organic is how much I'm getting, this much in organic, which is inbound, word of mouth, all that stuff. Prospecting, which is outbound, and then paid ads. Those are the three giant buckets that a lot of them, little fish, are swimming in. So most companies have a word of mouth, some that prospect and canvas, some that just run ads. We want all three firing at all cylinders. That's what I'm doing. And it's like a third. It's like, ooh, that's scalable. That it's so fun to watch. But if you don't have a sales team or a process that helps you actually convert those at the highest level, or your sales team isn't prospecting relationally or pure outbound. If it's B2B, it's going to be more of an inside sales or even outside sales prospecting, and then networking. And then obviously, the account development, which is current client development. And then the residential side, it's going to be more networking, like BNI groups and things like that, referrals, neighbors, vicinity, and then, or just pure, just knock, which I don't actually teach how to do. I've never done that, except when I sold chocolate bars as a kid. Actually kind of did pretty well. I like door knocking, but I have a different approach, more digital and stuff like that. I think you could be more effective with a salesperson using social media to knock, especially like LinkedIn as well. All that to say, you need to know your numbers, man. You need to know your numbers on what your paid methods are generating, and then you need to know your close rates. Because if you're not measuring close rates and sales cycles, you can't predict, you can't put together in an accurate forecast. And then you also can't coach your guys and your girls very well. You can't effectively break down what's going wrong, and because they want to get better, and they're not there to just, they want to be coached. You got to invest in your people. I'm like, as an athlete, there wasn't a day that I didn't see my statistics pull up and I didn't know my numbers. And sometimes you get bogged down by them, but they're a reflection of something. And so we want to be the best we can be and measure the numbers and not try to overdo it and do the craziness that we have today in baseball, for example. Sometimes they lose a feel for the game, but what it should do is just measure one's ability. And so we believe that we can transform and coach people who want it and to be really, really good. And that's part of what we shape. So that way, they could just spend more money on ads from what the guidance you're giving them, because they have the confidence that they're going to convert. And then breaking into commercial is a little bit more challenging. You can create demand on Facebook, but it is a little bit different environment. Networking wise, decision-making processes are more complex. Sales cycles are a little shorter or a little longer. I don't want to tell them they're long, because then they'll believe they're wrong and then they'll let things delay, which that's a big thing. Is I don't have a long sales cycle, but it does compared to a residential re-roof, it does change. All that to say, people should be working with both of us, if I can say it on the podcast. They need to be working with both. But yeah, we need to know our numbers, man. Got to know them to a T. But also just watch them and then let the athletes play, right? And just play the game and then keep a pulse.
All right, cool. So by the way, we've got some clients that are doing really well generating commercial demand on Facebook. And there's this fallacy that like Facebook and Instagram are only for homeowners, like only for residential. And that's just not the case. Like it's actually pretty easy, very easy to identify commercial building owners, commercial property owners, property management companies, property managers on Facebook, and then to craft messages that appeal to them, like where they're having problems. Maybe they're having problems
with building owner or business owners. I'm doing it. I mean, it's amazing. Facebook's algorithm is like the most advanced thing on the planet to try to monetize their audience. So I thank you for saying that. And I think that more people need to be doing it. And because then it's really scalable. If you're like, man, I know my average sale, my margin, my cost. I know my sales guys can convert because they're trained. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a wide open arena, because most roofing and contracting companies are not thinking that way. They're only thinking residential as far as social media. So if you can figure that out, like there's a ton of opportunity there. So you talk about leaders and athletes, and I always love that. Like, you played professional baseball. I played rugby at a high level for the U.S. for a little bit. So we're both lifelong athletes. What do you see in your clients? Like, what's like a couple of the common characteristics that you see that they embody that enable them to just continue to grow as leaders and as companies, and to grow their teams and grow personally as well?
I think that the best leaders are very adaptive and they're innovative. They don't stay stuck. Growth is constant. It's ever changing. And I think they believe that, they know that, they're comfortable with that in their own skin. Whatever that is, they're always trying to stay out of their comfort zone. The ones that I think struggle, they plateau, the ones that like to play a lot or relax a lot. I mean, there's nothing wrong with relaxing. You got to rest, but they don't, they're afraid of change. And I think that's going to be the biggest inhibitor of being successful this decade and any decade, is just that there's that lack of ability to change. And then I think that another thing too is not empowering. Well, first off, why would any high performer want to work for an owner who's not a high performer? Like, why? Like, they would never want. Like, I worked as a pro athlete before I met the roofing company in South Florida. I went to a concrete restoration company, and I thought like this guy was going to teach me the game of business. And I thought he was going to give me an opportunity to talk to people at a level that would challenge me, with owners and building owners, and do deals and create value. There was none of that. It was like, come ride with me, and then come on the here's $18 an hour to slap concrete on a delaminated wall, on a condo, and I'm like, okay, and I'm like doing. It's like, yeah, you need to know the trade really well before. Actually, I was project managing. It's like, then you need to know the trade really well. So I'm like, I'm 24 years old, college degree, pro athlete, ready to make a lot of money, and I'm like, looking at this guy, and he's got no training. The first week, dude, I wore a tie to the job site. Like, I'm like here to play. I'm here to win here.
I love it.
And it was like nothing. So, but when I met the other contractor, he's a total pro, and I skyrocketed. It was amazing. I loved that chapter. It was very hard, but why would a high performer want to work for a guy who's not a high performer? They would never want to. So if you want to attract a team that you can delegate, empower, see them be successful, you have to, first off, be a high performer, because they're looking at you and your vision and the way you think and your disciplines. If you're on drugs, or your marriage is bad or unhealthy, your kids hate you, and you couldn't keep a relationship for more than 6 months to save your life, then you're going to have a lot of turnover. A lot of contractors are living like that. That's exactly, people are listening right now that some of you are like that. What you got to do is change, snap out of it, get healthy, grow, because people who are healthy or want to be healthy will be attracted to you. And if you're not, you're just going to attract more people who are broken and dysfunctional. You can't count on them, right? And it's just an ever rotating like talent pool coming in and out of your company. So all that to say, when you can not be comfortable, and you can get comfortable being uncomfortable and growing and working on yourself, all that stuff, you're open to technology, you attract high performers, you can delegate and empower more. They want to be a part of a family. Most people were divorced. Our generation, most of our parents divorced, and 65% of people come through a divorced family. So they never felt what it feels like to be a part of something bigger than them trying to survive on their own. I struggle. My parents divorced at 8. My mom and dad, my stepdad, they married when I was 12, and they divorced when I was playing pro ball. So when I was out of that, I was like, I had no real direct family to inherit a business or anything like that. So I had to reinvent myself, right? I had to find mentors who cared about me as a person, would teach me skills. I did that. Lindsay and I said, let's start a family together and build something together that we didn't have, and honor what we did receive, but do it better this time, this and that. That required a lot of internal change about money. I used to dip tobacco a lot playing baseball. I was chewing tobacco. My wife hated that. Had to shut that down. So much that we did, so many changes. So but I had to go through it, and I had to learn from a leader who could teach me that. And that's what that mentor of mine, Greg Wallach of Best Roofing, he modeled a lot of that. He wasn't perfect. There's things that I wrote in my notes that I will not do. But what I saw him do was some great things for me. So if you want to be a leader who does well, you have to become a high performer in some degree, whatever you define that to be yourself. And because people want to work for you, they're going to see a future with you, right? I didn't play baseball at a Division III school because they don't produce draft picks who make it to the big leagues. I went to a division school. We had 9 guys get picked up the year I played, and I was one of 9. I didn't make it to the big leagues, but probably every 5 to 10 years there's a big leaguer out of my school, Division I, pedigree, blah, 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 blah. Hey, that's a chapter. It was short-lived looking in hindsight, but man, did that change my life and I prospected to that coach with an email and I reached out to him. I walked on to FAU, walked on to Indian River, got a scholarship, team MVP, got drafted by the Pirates, didn't sign, wanted to finish school, didn't feel ready to play pro ball, parents are going through divorce. So I wanted some more structure, reached out to ORU, Christian school. I wanted to go to a Christian D1 program. So I looked at Liberty and ORU, prospected. Hey, I got drafted, by the way. They're like, oh, you got my attention. They came and watched me play. I hit a triple, I hit a single, showed some athleticism, showed some tools. I also had a friend I played high school ball with who was 2 years ahead of me that was on that current team. So he took me on a visit. I went and visited him. And then they were like, great. They offered me a 60% scholarship. And I came and batted 4th and 5th next year, hit 350, got drafted again. I mean, all that happened. But that was just, honestly, that chapter just taught me work ethic and what happens if you put your hands into something seriously. There was so much unpacking since then. But you have to get out of your comfort zone and not be a sluggard and not be too content too much. You gotta be content and peaceful, mainly with your character, your relationships, but you can't be content with your current skill set, your current knowledge, your current income, right? Your current impact. You just gotta always find a way to say there's more, not in a greedy way, but in a way that says there's more for me to tackle and dominate and to be able to give. Because none of us can be a king or a sage one day if we never went to war and know how to go make things happen either. So I think that's the dream. I want to have a big lead. Owners should think themselves, am I a good king? Am I a good king? Am my people my kingdom? And that's going to maybe answer a question you asked me later, what book I'm reading. I just finished this book. Do people like being in your kingdom? Do people feel like they're growing with you? Do people enjoy it? When they're talking to their mom and their dad, their wife, their husband, are they like, man, I love working here. Man, I just love it. I get challenged. I'm growing. This is great. Or are they frustrated with you, right? Are they complaining about your character, about how much you're cheating on or flirting with the office desk lady when you had that family or company party, and your wife was across the room or whatever? I mean, come on. So all that to say, all that to say is, you got to be a king that somebody wants that they're growing, that you know how to go to war, you know how to make it happen, you know how to sell, you know how to market, you know how to roof, or at least you know where to find that out. And you're surrounding yourself with people who are challenging you there. That's why coaches like you and like me are so important, and peer groups are so important, and conferences are important, and everything else. There's so much that goes into this. If it was easy, everybody would be able to net $3 million a year, and pay themselves $250,000 with all the benefits and have a family and have a team that does most of all the work, and you're a visionary and you're just connecting and creating a great culture. Dude, you better work. You got some work to do to get there, to net 10, 15%, to have a team doing it, taking massive action, leadership, empowering, making an impact, making a profit, having a great brand. Dude, there's so many variables. It all starts with the leader. And if the leader is broken, hates their mom and dad, is a control freak narcissist, okay, you're not going very far. It's just bottom line. You got a lot of work to do. And so I think that if you want to do that in this modern era, you got to create a place where people feel safe and they can grow with you and create a life that they can't get. Well, they could get if they wanted to, but you got to help them make that happen with you. And that's training, systems, processes, vision, structure. It's great, or it's really hard, but don't be overwhelmed. I mean, there's more information today than ever before to make that happen. And I love America. I love living here. I love having the options and the freedom. But it's up to us to be faithful with that. I mean, Netflix every night with a glass of wine is not going to help you. You need to be reading. You need to be getting up early. You need to be clear-minded. You need to exercise. You need to take care of your loved ones. You need to take care of your leadership team. All that stuff. We don't have so much time today. But the ones who are scraping the barrel, doing less than $1 million, doing all the work, wearing all the hats, versus the one who's making an impact on the industry and, netting crazy amount of money and enjoying their family. There's two very different people.
Well said, brother. Well said. Yeah. One of my questions was going to be about transformation and really what that means. But I think it's safe to say you covered that in that monologue just now. You have to transform. You have to constantly transform. Change is the only constant. So I think that's what creates a great leader. And you touched on something that I talk about a lot, because we help our clients do marketing and run their own marketing. And it's not only marketing for projects and clients, but it's marketing to build a team, to attract like-minded people. And one of the things there is, like, in the roofing and contracting industry, this revolving door of sales reps is like a huge problem. And I think that it can be less of a problem if more people took ownership and said, hey, am I creating the type of organization that high performers are going to join and know that they can grow and know that they have a big future and know that they're supported with systems and teams and a great culture to the point where they know they have an amazing thing going on. They're not going to leave to go start their own thing, because we've got it all. Like, we've got it figured out. And that's so key. And that's the ability to attract a high performing sales rep to your company is huge. The ability to keep that person is even bigger. So I think it's really a lot of self-reflection, a lot of applying the right knowledge, getting the right training, getting in and around the right people, surrounding yourself with the people that are where you want to be, or at least where you are, and looking to go where you want to go. Those things are so important. As we touched on at the beginning, it's like you can get to that $1 or $2 million mark by just hustling, by just going out there and knocking on doors and selling and finding some crews to fulfill those jobs, to produce those jobs. But in order to grow beyond that, in order to have an impact, in order to have an amazing life and to provide for others and lead others, it takes a transformation. So I think it's safe to say that you covered that really well, Ryan. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Cool. So yeah, Ryan, that was awesome. I love the fact that we touched on business, sales, marketing. We touched on life, mindset, like tying everything together, because it's so important. And I think when you challenged me back in February to go a little bit deeper, I think that these are some of the topics that you were talking about, and I love riffing on these with you, and I think that's why we get along so well and align so well. So thanks for really opening up and sharing with me and with the audience. I appreciate that.
My pleasure, man. You're really successful, not just because of your brand, but what you go about, how you go about it, the consistency. So it's great to be associated with you, Joe. I mentioned this, but the last 2 books I've read, in case anybody wants to check it out, one is Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. That's a very easy to read. It's a really good read. Man, so good. And then the most recent one is Fathered by God by John Eldridge. Totally Christian book. It's I'm a Christian if you don't know that yet. And so that one talks about the 6 stages of masculine development and how many people aren't fathered by anyone. And then if we do get fathered, we're not realizing we're being fathered. And so there's the boyhood stage, the cowboy stage, the warrior stage, the lover stage, the king stage, and the sage stage. And I loved reading that book and seeing how I'm kind of, and I got some warrior, some lover, and some king going on. And I want to do well, right? I want to do that well. And so some of what I shared before is there, and I love sales. It's a great way to get from cowboy to warrior and get some cowboys and warriors. You're 19, 22, 24 to 35, 40-year-olds. Just create a little army. So, and that's it. That's a lot of fun. We could talk for hours, man. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate you and all that you bring to the industry. And thanks for having me today, chatting about this type of stuff.
Yeah, man, really cool to hear. Thanks for sharing those books. I'm gonna have to check them out. I am a book junkie myself, so it's those are two good recommendations. Yeah, again, Ryan, appreciate you being here. Thanks so much for sharing, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon, either on video or perhaps at an in-person event. So thanks again.
Yeah, man.